Welcome to Shop Talk Live, Fine Woodworking's bi-weekly podcast. I'm your host, Tom McKenna, and with me this week, as always, are Mike Pekovich.
Hey, guys.
And Matt Kenny.
Howdy.
Behind the camera way over yonder are Ben Strano and Jeff Rose.
Hello. Hey, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Gentlemen.
How's it going?
Good.
Awesome. It's almost New Year's. Hey, we'll jump right to the questions.
This is posting after New Year's.
Oh, man. That was,
Rewind.
so what'd you guys do for New Year's anyway?
Partied like it was 1999. It was awesome. All right.
Got drunk and cried in my shop.
Tears on my table saw. All right. How do you select shellac flakes? Asks Connor. I see Mike uses Brooklyn Tool and Craft brand. Are the Tiger Flakes any better or worse than the cheaper bags of shellac by the same company? Also, if shellac flakes can go bad with age, does the same thing not happen to the shellac once it has been applied to the workpiece? Is it going bad just in terms of the ability of the flakes to dissolve and be applied? All right, hit it up first, Mike.
Yeah, I do use that brand. I use other brands of shellac flakes as well. That's one that my local Woodcraft happens to sell. Basically, anytime I'm buying shellac flakes, I tend to look for either like a blonde or a light colored dewaxed shellac, because I'm usually not trying to impart any real heavy tones with the shellac, except for maybe if I'm fuming oak, I will hit it with some garnet shellac just to kind of warm things up just a little bit. One shellac company I really like and I bought lots of shellac from is shellac.net. Actually, I came across them because they were the kind of the sole retailer of the remaining supply of the lemon-scented wax in the cool tins, which is not made anymore. But I still get their shellac. It's a
Goddard's.
Goddard's, yes.
Right.
Yeah, and you can get Goddard's wax, and it smells kind of like lemons, and it's a round plastic thing. It is not the tin. It's not the same wax. So stop emailing me and say, Mike, you can still get it. No, you can't. Except I make my own now. So, yes, I can.
You can get Goddard's space wax. It's much better.
It was used on the shuttle.
Yes. Only some people will get that.
Notions about shellac going bad. No, once it's on a piece of furniture, it's not going to go bad. However, both shellac in flake form and liquid form do have a shelf life, and it's really easy to tell. For flakes, if you try to mix them up and they don't mix, if they don't dissolve, it's bad. Throw them out. Nothing you can do. You can't put them in a coffee grinder and grind them smaller because you'll just have smaller pieces not dissolving. And liquid stuff, if you're not sure, put it on like a piece of glass or something, and it should dry hard within 10 minutes. If it stays sticky and gummy, that's bad too. Throw that out.
And if the top of the can explodes off of the can, it's probably bad.
Yes.
Just
happened to Ed Pernick once.
happened to me too. He was pretty ugly.
I think we did 3 episodes of the podcast about Ed's experience with the exploding can.
It is kind of freaky when it happens.
Yeah.
And Michael Fortune's knife.
His knife. Kniff. It's called a kniff. Yeah.
Recurring theme.
Does he use that? Does he use it to carve his canoe?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. All right. Do we have anything to add about shellac? I think
I don't know, but now I'm just thinking of Gary Gnu.
Why
with the ganache.
why test it on glass?
Anything non-porous,
Okay.
so it doesn't soak in. It could be, I don't know, Melody.
like your heart.
Oh.
What happened to my audio?
We missed Matt's best joke ever. All right, well, let's move on to question number 2. This one is from Randy. And Randy says, or asks, how much reveal is the correct amount around doors and drawers to be sure that expansion due to seasonal humidity changes doesn't cause binding? I have heard it suggested that the goal was a 32nd of an inch.
I usually like to show just a little bit of ankle.
Does that mean it's a foot?
Yeah.
He said doors. Doors, not your drawers.
Well, he said
He said
drawers.
both. Doors and drawers. This is going
What is
nowhere
happening?
Who wants to answer first? I think we can answer from two different perspectives, right? Because we decided that the answer really depends on the scale of the stuff you're making.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah, Chris Becksford, who builds more standard size pieces of furniture and such, his rule of thumb is a dime gap top and bottom and a nickel on the sides
For a door?
for a door. Yeah, which that's probably closer to maybe a 16th top and bottom and an eighth. He builds furniture in Maine. Where in the wintertime it's probably pretty dry, and he's shipping furniture all over the country, and he does not want to call from California that a door or a drawer sticks.
Right.
So I think he's definitely pretty conservative in terms of leaving gaps and such.
Yeah.
I probably do about the same, maybe skinny 16th top and bottom. What's really important to me is that the reveal is the same top and bottom, and it needs to be wide enough for the door to open without hitting. But the really important thing is not necessarily the width of the gaps, but the fact that the gaps are even all the way around the drawer, which means often the case isn't square, so it's really important to fit your door to that unsquare space
Yeah.
if
Right.
necessary.
So it's even all the way around.
But
Yeah.
your stuff, Matt, is more on the small side. I'm sure your gaps are quite a
Tiny.
bit smaller.
Yeah, so because wood expands and contracts more the wider it is. So I often use, like a door that I just made had stiles that were maybe 1.25 inches wide. So, and they're also quarter sawn. So the amount of movement they're going to have is very minimal. And so I'll make the gaps actually quite small. A lot of times the gap, it depends on the hinge too. So if I'm using like a knife hinge or a kniff hinge, then I will make the gap all the way around the same as the thickness of the spacer between the two halves of the hinge.
Okay.
And that works pretty well. Especially if the door is like a plywood core. Then
So that's not moving at all.
yeah, that's not moving at all. Then it's fine. With butt hinge, I normally try to make it the same size as the natural gap in the hinge when the door closes.
Yeah.
Sometimes though, actually, that's too much on really small stuff, so I'll make it even smaller. About a 1/16 of an inch is probably normally where I am. Maybe sometimes a little bit smaller than that. And I've not had problems with binding, but again, generally in the winter you make the gap a little bit bigger, and in summer you can make it a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to get any bigger. My shop I know right now was down to like 35% humidity recently, which is really pretty low.
So you're building your drawers half the height of the opening now.
Yes, yeah, and they expand like 5 inches. They're like this, like a sponge. I mean, think about it, and I know, like, say in Salt Lake City, I've been there at times to work with Chris Gochner when the humidity's been like 4%.
Yeah, it's crazy dry.
Yeah, and think if you and that was in the summer. And, in the winter, it's even worse. Actually, maybe it's more humid there because of all the snow. But think how hard it is for him to like make something that he's got to ship to, say, Florida.
Yeah.
And I think of the difference that could be fairly significant. But so I usually make my gaps smaller because I'm working on smaller scale.
It's funny. I don't have a measurement in my head. I used to use like just 2 business cards around doors was kind of my goal. But, as long as it's even, and I kind of just judge it, and I'm not shipping anything anywhere, so I know, like Matt said, when I'm building in different seasons, I accommodate the gap in different ways. But for drawers, I just aim for an even reveal all around. It's kind of a simple rule that I try to follow and learn by just not having a big enough gap and having to replane a drawer here and there. So
Yeah.
I just kind of have it. I think I have it down finally for at least the stuff I build for my own home.
Yeah, the even gap thing is really critical. It took me a while to sort of realize that.
Yeah.
You know, I wish someone had told me that.
Well,
You
what-
know,
what-
like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's so nowadays my cases come out pretty square. It's not an issue. But in the past, I mean, I've gotten out a bevel gauge and gotten the angle and transferred it to the
Yeah.
door to ensure that things came out parallel to
Right,
the
and
case.
that's a point that Mike made before, and that's
Right.
really important. You can make a great square door, but hey, guess what? It's not fitting your opening, your actual opening. It's just like carpentry in a way. But the same goes for drawers. If you build a drawer pocket slightly out of square, you kind of have to, work around that as well if you can.
Right.
Hopefully, you don't have to, but.
It is amazing what a parallel gaps or an even gap, how much it hides.
Yes.
Because that's
Yeah.
kind of what your eye picks up on, that this gap is consistent all the way around. And so it hides the fact that your door is, either the corners are at 97 degrees or whatever it is.
And chamfers can help, situations like that too.
Chamfers, yeah.
Yeah, a little tapered chamfer that can even out a gap.
Yeah.
The shadow line. I maybe have done that.
There's some little tricks here or there.
But when you're fitting a door in a case that's out of square, I've always found that the hinge side that has
yeah.
straight,
Well, yeah.
Everything else is easy.
and then everything
Yeah.
else is angled accordingly. Yeah,
Yes, that's your reference.
Yeah, your
Because
reference.
that is going to be parallel if you get your hinges to the right depth.
yes,
That's one angle that is not going to change.
correct.
Yeah.
So Matt, when you set a door reveal less than the hinge gap,
yeah.
are you deepening the mortise on the case side or on the door side for the hinge?
I've done it on the door side. Is normally where I do it a little bit deeper. I don't do it too much deeper, just a little bit deeper. Then it's just it's just that that gap might be a little bit bigger than the rest of them. But I mean, there's just not too much I can do there. And in that case, it's normally better to use a knife hinge because you can get those gaps even all the way around. And a knife hinge gap is smaller than a butt hinge gap. So sometimes it's just like this cabinet I'm making now. The problem is that knife hinges only come in brass, and it's a walnut cabinet, and I didn't want brass and walnut. And so I bought some butt hinges from Horton because they come in a variety of nice finishes. And so I was kind of stuck there. But I mean, you can, I guess with brass, you can fume it and it gets a little bit darker.
Silver Sharpie, man.
Or you can just put a Sharpie all over it.
Who is that guy?
Yeah, that's it.
I think that Horton brasses, because they have the brass hinges in various levels of patina, some really, really dark. And I'm pretty sure they sell the chemical that's used to make them really dark.
They do?
Yeah, so if you're, drilling out hinges or maybe you scratch the brass and it's really bright, or you want to match the brass screws that you just picked up, you can use that to color everything.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
I'm going to buy some of that. That's what I want for Christmas.
let's hope they actually sell it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's non-toxic too.
Oh, yeah. It's just like rotten eggs, like sulfur or something.
And the water in my house would be fine.
All right, let's move on. It is time for our all-time favorite article of all time for this week. You want to hit it up first, Mike?
Sure. This goes all the way back to issue, what did I say, 126? 126. My first issue working in the magazine was 122, so I was a greenhorn at this time. I was tasked with heading out to Mendocino to College of the Redwoods with our photography director at the time, Boyd Hagan, and my job was to sort of, quote unquote, direct a photo shoot, which really meant nothing because hey, I'd been there just a couple issues and I didn't even know how to shoot a camera. So I'm not going to tell our photo director how to take a picture. However, two reasons, it's a pair of articles that were in the same issue. One, James Krenov wrote a short essay on the wonders of tools and wooden hand planes. And that accompanied an article by David Welter, who taught at the school for a number of years, on making the Krenov-style wooden hand plane. So obviously, it's the visit was awesome because I got to meet, one of my lifelong inspirations of the craft, James Krenov, and got some books signed and all that good kind of stuff. That was really cool. However, the other really important thing and why I like the article is because it was the first time where someone, this being David Welter, put a sharp hand plane in my hand, and I was able to take a shaving with it. And it was like it was eye-opening. It's like, oh, this is what a hand plane does. And of course I thought, oh, this is what a Krenov-style wooden hand plane does. Because I've used an old beat-up Stanley, and that didn't work like this at all. And David said, no, this is just a sharp plane. He's like, okay. Now I know what sharp is. Now I know what a sharp tool can do. And from then on, it was just, what do I need to do to get back to that with the planes that I own? So that had been my life-changing event, and it was tied into that article.
Cool. Nice story. What issue was that? 122?
126.
126. Wow. I wasn't that far behind you. Huh. I think I was like 129 or 128.
Wow.
I had the surgeon on the cover. Was my first.
Oh yeah, the dentist with the random orbit sander. Yeah, there you go. Good times.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
Well, so I have a bit of a Pekovich answer here because I want to do two. One of them I just want to show my all-time favorite cover of all time, which is an article, but it's not my favorite article of all time. My favorite cover of all time. I'm going to show this.
Oh, yes.
Is from issue number 85. And I have no idea what's been showing up on the screen there.
You're the one that you emailed me about.
Oh, okay. But this cover is 3 nutcrackers. And in the article, the guy names each nutcracker.
I did not know that.
It is fantastic. And maybe by the time I'm done talking about my other one, I'll open it to the right page and I'll tell you the names of the nutcrackers. But it's fantastic. So I love that cover.
It's back in the era of nutcrackers, wooden sunglass frames,
pool cues,
and clomping.
We love the clomping. Yeah,
this is a fantastic cover. So, anyways, maybe Ben will be able to put that up on the website.
I just think it's hilarious. The one guy in the center is like saluting.
Well, in the article, actually, the 2 other guys, the green guy and the blue guy, are having a sword fight in one picture.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's awesome. And whenever I meet someone, they talk about the old issues, and that's the first thing I think about is see the 2 guys. Sorry, it's the blue and the red guy. They're having a sword fight. I know this is not great radio, has it been? Great audio, excuse me. I hear
it's
their
never
names.
stopped us before.
Okay, so the green guy, I believe his name is Cornelius Crownheart. Then he has 2 friends, Tobias Trueblue and Reginald Righteous.
Nice.
So those are the nutcrackers. Anyways.
Awesome.
But my real favorite all-time article of this week is an article by John Arno, who, in my opinion, is one of the best authors fine woodworking ever had, because this guy could talk about wood species.
Yes, you could.
Both from the scientific aspect and also from a woodworker's perspective. So the one I chose this time is about cherry. And it's a great article, I think, because he gives a very complete picture of cherry in our ecosystem and also cherry and why it ages the way it ages. So he talks about cherry being a nurse tree and how it's the first to grow after, say, a fire or something, and about how also eventually it's crowded out. And he even goes into explain how, for example, we've all seen, like in cherry, there's sometimes you get these pitch pockets or gum pockets. Mm-hmm. He explains why there are gum pockets, because once it starts to get crowded out and it's harder for it to grow and get sunlight, it gets weaker, and that's when bugs move in. And when bugs move in, cherry produces gum to fight the infestation. So there's more gum in the lumber
Does that pocket cause bubbling on the finish?
No, not in my experience, but it is a gum. Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. You guys didn't get that?
That was all right.
Yeah.
I do like I like the pitch pockets in cherry.
I do. I love
Some
little
people
tight
think
pitch
they're
pockets.
defects, but I think they're cool.
Yeah,
I really like
I
that.
like them. And he goes into how extractives contribute to the difference in the heartwood and the sapwood in cherry, which is it's a fascinating thing, and it happens with all woods that these extractives as they move into the hardwood and I believe, and since it's kind of not dead but dead, like the hardwood no longer moves sap in the tree, and so these extractives change color. So he talks about that to quite a while, and he sort of explains how cherry is one of the few woods that it has photosensitive extractives, and so that it darkens over time rather than lightens over time. He does mention another wood that has photosensitive extractives, which cherry becomes beautiful as it ages. This other wood becomes hideous as it ages.
Here we go.
Well, yeah, you know what it is. Purple Heart. It's Purple Heart. Purple Heart becomes a horrible shade of brown as it ages. And then he also he says there's 5 different types of cherry wood. And there's just the kind that we all think of that's really clear, beautiful cherry. There's the kind with gummy stock, as he calls it. You have he calls it variegated cherry, which I like because I've used the word variegated around here, and people look at me like I'm an alien. But
and you are.
I might be. So that's when you have both heartwood and sapwood in it. So that's 3. And then he talks about figured. And then the 5th kind, which he really likes, and I think you'll recognize, there's sometimes you get cherry. He calls it, what's the color he says? Chartreuse and green highlights. So, there's definitely sometimes you get cherry with a hint of green to it, and he really likes that. So it's just this fantastic article that covers. There is a little bit in here about working with cherry, but so much more information about cherry in general that I think fills in the larger context of what you're doing with this species and helps me use it better, helps me understand it better, and also helps connect you back to, in a way, where this material comes from. Helps you, and I like that myself. I don't see wood's a unique material to build with. It's not like there's a lot of materials like stone, clay or mud, whatever they call it. Potters call it. I don't know. I think at one time I called it mud to a potter, and they got all angry with me. But and then I remembered he was a ghost, and I just ignored him. But anyways, I like this. When I use wood, one of the things I like about it is that its origin in the environment, and there's this connection to the living world. So
one of the things that I remember, one of my first photo shoots for a project was with Garrett Hack when he built the hunt board. And he gave me a really good lesson on cherry. He was talking about the wood that he was using in the sideboard and how it was going to age over time. And he pointed to his wall where he's got basically cherry boards as interior siding, for lack of a better word, but where he had some either a cabinet or a machine like in front of the cherry, and he had moved it. You could see how the difference between the portion that got the sunlight and the one that didn't, and it was just kind of a cool. I guess intro into how wood really, really ages and colors. And it was kind of before I started thinking about wood, down the road, like making something out of walnut and how that's going to age. And, I see it in the stuff I've built out of maple where it's really turned, in some cases too yellow, but other cases just right.
Yeah, we get that question a lot. How do I keep this maple looking really, really white? Or how do I keep this wood from not looking differently in the future? And it's like, well, you don't. It's kind of, I think you build with the understanding of what something is going to look like, not what it's looking like right when you build it.
Right. Yeah. With cherry, whenever I make something from cherry, before I let it sit for, a month or 2 months at least before I ever put anything on top of it. So like a table, or even if it's like a little cabinet, you don't, because if you put something up on it right away, that is really going to be a dramatic difference where the sun doesn't hit it.
Yeah.
But if you let it age for a while, then you can put something on it and it doesn't show up like that.
Yeah. If you do have a piece and you have a little doily on it and it's in the sun and you brought it in the house for a couple of weeks and you pull the doily off and you have that horrible reverse image there left over, just keep it in the sun for a while. It's going to go away almost immediately. So like you didn't ruin it. It's not like that's going to stay that much lighter than the rest of the piece forever. It'll all even out.
Yes.
Cool.
What you got, Tom? Do you have 2 articles as
Well,
well?
no, I don't have 2 favorites.
He's got his favorite cover too.
Well, that's how I was going to hold that up. But I have a contractor saw that I've talked about before, and I've been really lately putting a push on, making it a project to do a better job of dust proofing the opening. And so I was thinking of looking. I knew this article by Richard Babbitt existed about how he did his contractor saw. But in my search for that article, which I knew about, I came across another one by, I think it was Dick McDonough. And his solution in this article was exactly what I was looking for in terms of simplicity, whereas the Babbitt solution was kind of build a bunch of boxes around the motor and put a dust port underneath. I have a dust port on my saw, which is kind of useless because the whole back is open.
It's open. Yeah.
But on the McDonough article, he has a really good solution to basically making a back plate that covers the opening and then accommodates all the motor parts.
Oh, cool.
So I have now a project. And something that's really should be pretty easy to do. I don't think I'm going to screw it to the cabinet. I think I'm just going to use rare earth magnets if that works out, just so I can pull it off easily if I need access to the inside. But it brought to mind that one of the things that I've always loved about fine woodworking is not only the furniture and the furniture we show and that we build or show people how to build, but it's the tool maintenance and tool tips and machine knowledge and hand tool knowledge. And I've always been one that's been hesitant to dive into machine maintenance in a heavy way.
Yeah.
Because I'm just intimidated by machines, I think. I've never been a mechanic.
Right.
But with guidance that we've shown before, we really do a great job of showing the bare bones of how to, tune up machines and how to make them work better.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So you guys both had 2 different issues. At least I got articles from one issue. So
Listen, one time does not make up for all the other times.
I'm just saying.
All right. Moving on, Ben? All right. The next question comes from Thomas, and he says, I'm retired and my wife and I are selling our home with the shop. We will be splitting our time between a small condo and a small house. Neither has space for even a small shop. I've rented a studio space near the condo where I plan to try pure hand tool woodwork. I have a good selection of hand tools, but I don't have a 25-inch rip saw. I have panel saws, but all are cross-cut. Should I refile one of my saws as a rip, have it done professionally, or buy a new saw?
Well, he has 3 saws. He could send.
Yeah.
I would send one out to be refiled myself, I think, initially. No, I wouldn't. I'd buy a new saw. I'd definitely buy a new saw. I mean, what does it hurt to have a new saw?
And what's the cost? I wonder what the cost of getting a panel saw refiled would be.
It shouldn't be too bad. It'd probably be in the neighborhood of 40 to 50,
Okay.
60 bucks. And there are people that will do that. I think Matt Cianci still does it.
Yeah.
He's
Matt
still-
has a couple of my saws right now.
Yeah, and I've used Matt has done some work on one of my saws, and it was really good. And I'm sure there are other people all over the country that do it as well. But
Bad X has his prices listed, And
He
for-
refiles.
Yeah. And for sharpening and setting and jointing, $60.
Oh, for a panel saw? Or he doesn't say.
It doesn't specify.
I don't know if it's like circular saw blade sharpening when they charge by the tooth.
But on a dovetail saw and a panel saw are going to have the same number of teeth probably over the length.
Ooh, you're right. It's sort of like a mouse. A mouse and an elephant have the same number of heartbeats in their lives.
What?
Right? It's just the mouse's heart beats much faster.
Oh my God.
So he uses them all up.
It's
And this is true for all mammals except for humans because of like nutrition and medicine. We can get like an extra good portion of heartbeats out of our hearts before we die.
Random Thoughts with Mike Pekovich.
So
What?
small
I'm
saw,
going
big
to see you
saw.
guys later.
So,
All right, we're going to talk about this later because I think you're fabricating that entire thing.
We ventured too far out of the bat cave, I think.
so you could get a new expensive saw and it's going to be really awesome and it's going to work really well. But if you can find like an old Distant or something with a nice cool handle, and sometimes the blades are funky. I guess they could be pitted, but they also sort of lose their tension or something. I know there's some guidelines you can look at. I think Bad Axe on their website, they have guidelines about kind of what you should look at if you're going to get an old saw. But if you get an old saw in good condition, which I don't think is difficult, and it's not that expensive, and then you pay $60 to have it sharpened, that's going to perform exactly the same as a brand new saw with the same guy who just sharpened it, I would say.
If I were going to rip by hand, I think I'd like a Japanese saw just so that I can stand on the board like Andrew Hunter showed in that article on Japanese hand saws. I just love that idea of, if I'm going to rip, getting that big handled saw and just kind of going at it.
Yeah, I think if I retired and was going to rip boards with a handsaw, I would reevaluate my retirement.
Well, he's probably doing small, he probably cross-cuts small parts.
You
I would
might
think.
not have room in your condo for a shop, but I bet you have room somewhere for a 14-inch bandsaw.
Yeah, he says he's renting a space, but he says
one thing
we
sorry.
left out was
Yeah,
that he can't have machines.
But I'm saying you get a machine in your corner of your house, put a little cabinet around
Yeah.
it.
Put it in a closet and
Yes.
just wheel it out into the kitchen.
Yes. And do all your
Keep it on the back deck.
It's like a Murphy bed, but it unveils a bandsaw.
That's right. That would be awesome.
so yeah, or the idea that okay, you can't use hand tools in this little choppy shop, but you can
Power
the
tools.
studio power tools, but you can have them somewhere else. Unless you really want to. It sounds like he just says, "Nah, this is a good excuse to do hand tool woodworking."
Yeah, I mean, in his note another part that I had cut out was that his goal is to make small projects. So I'd imagine that he's probably cross-cutting boards,
Yeah.
to a reasonable length and
That's pretty
ripping
cool.
them at
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
from that
cross cutting
point.
is the ripping that is
That's
sucky.
pretty tedious.
Yeah. But you're retired. He's moving and he's renting studio space. Get a new saw. Get yourself a new saw. Treat yourself right.
That's good advice. Yes.
Yeah. You don't want to make that chore difficult right from the start.
Right. They're not. I mean, I know that a lot of times you hear this all the time that new tools like from Lee Nielsen or Bad Axe or Veritas are expensive. People think they're outrageously expensive. They're not, though. When you consider what you're getting, it's something that will last forever.
Yes.
So
Yeah, like the Lee Nielsen saw is like $2.25.
yeah, not $2.25, but $225.
That is too expensive. No.
Jeez, Tom.
Kidding. All right. Let's move on to question number 4 already. And this one is from Mitch. And Mitch says, I'm a double bass luthier. My family and I are weeks away from closing on a house with a 400 square foot shop and a large 1.5 car garage. My question is focused around varnish. Do you all find it wise to have a machine shop in a different room from your workbenches, hand tool work, and varnishing? I would prefer to have everything as close as possible for efficiency, but the thought of a lack of sawdust in my primary workplace is quite enticing. Boy, double-based luthiers must be doing well, huh?
Bigger shop than mine, I guess so.
Doing twice as good as everyone else.
I think you're going to have sawdust issues no matter where you put it. I mean, I think if you're sanding a board at a bench, you're probably throwing more dust into the air than you are planing stock with a good dust collector. So I don't know if it's machine or hand tool makes that big of a difference.
Yeah. The problem, I was at first when I read this question, I was like, oh, well, this is easy. You make one of them your finishing room. But then I started to think about it. It's a 400 square foot shop.
It's a big room.
That's a big space.
No, it's not.
It's a pretty big space.
20 by 20.
Yeah. And then he has a 1.5 car garage. So I think what I would do is I'd put my machinery in the 1.5 car garage with a dust collector, and then I'd make that 400 square foot space my bench room, which will be easier. It won't be, you won't have all the fine dust. You'll still have dust, but it won't be, I don't know what I'm talking about, but you'll still have some dust, right? So,
Yeah.
but it'll be a less dusty place, I think.
Kitchen. No dust in a kitchen.
No dust.
There's dust in a kitchen.
No dust in the master bedroom.
I don't know where he is, but I think heating concerns would be an issue. I know at least for finishing and also for comfort. So I would want my bench room to be in the coziest.
I think he was from Texas.
Yeah, Texas.
Oh.
Sounds right. Yeah, you would want it to be in a conditioned space. So like your shop, this 400 square foot place, you can probably insulate it pretty easy. And whatever you got to do down in Texas, you probably just have to cool it mostly, depending on where. I mean, you can still get cold in Texas, but
It's a nice luxury or a nice problem to have.
yeah.
Which shop should I
Where
put
should I put
my
stuff?
bench in?
I know. You and the previous guy should hook up.
Meanwhile, I spent,
He can buy you hand tools and you can give him shop space.
every evening I'm dancing with a lolly column in my basement, and it's driving me crazy.
But I've often thought, I was recently talking about this with somebody, and they were asking me what my ideal shop would be. And my ideal shop would actually be more than one building. I would really like to have a small cluster of buildings, probably two. And one of them would be my machine room, and it would be connected by a lanai or some other type of covered walkway to my bench room.
And a pergola?
No, there'd be no pergolas.
How many people turn this off at Lanai?
Yeah. Well, you should know
Matt's
what
a simple
is.
man with simple needs.
Yeah.
Terraced gardens outside.
Yes. Terraced gardens. But that would be ideal to me, not to have the machines in my bench room, but to have them close to the bench room. Wow.
That was awesome. I'm just happy to have a space that has lights.
Yeah. Or if you had one space, like one big building, I would have them separated off by doors that were easy and not in the way.
Yeah. You know what I would definitely want two spaces for? One for freaking lumber.
Yes.
You had your little sort of grotto over there you could throw a lot of lumber in. Man, I would love to have a lot of lumber, and I would love for none of it to be in my shop if I wasn't working on it.
Yes, that's true.
Now I have the worst of both worlds. I have very little lumber, and it's taking up too much space.
Well,
It's true. The lumber storage is huge.
that's true. I would also build, and lumber storage is easy because it doesn't need to be insulated. It doesn't need to be heated or anything. So you can just make some kind of covered
Yeah.
space. And I would probably put walls up that allowed actually air to circulate through
Right,
it.
but keep it from the elements.
Keep it from the
Yeah.
elements. And that's actually something else that I've already, because, I'm looking for a place now and thinking, okay, well, how am I going to build lumber storage?
Yeah.
Couldn't the lumber storage be in your Lanai?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
That's where the...
That's the Lanai.
Where else am I going to put my water fountain?
Oh, okay.
Your bubbler.
My bubbler.
But that kind of goes back to the article you liked on cherry, in that I think when you're first starting out, oak is oak, cherry is cherry. What kind of wood am I going to make this out of? And then you realize it really gets down to tree. What tree did these boards come from? And I think the more you start to become aware of that sort of thing, it makes it more difficult to design a piece that you want to make without having the lumber. And then you have to go out and buy it. It's like, nah, this is not the oak I envisioned. So I don't think it's a luxury. I think after a while it becomes kind of a necessity that you have a stock of lumber on hand, because I think the lumber you have will start to go hand in hand with what you make, because the two begin to marry up. Like Nakashima, on their compound, they have barns filled with walnut slabs, and they'll go out for a project. It's like they're like rock climbing through these mountains of stacked slabs looking for the right slab for the piece, and the slab they find sort of then starts to inform the piece exactly what they make from that. So, yeah, more lumber storage.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, actually, and going back to the thing, is like with cherry, and he identified 5 different types of cherry. I think I could probably add like 5 different types of riffs on cherry.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, there's this, and it's got the, you know, the grains too wide, and this and that, and it really does. You want to.
Oh, yeah.
When I go to the lumber yard and you look through a stack of cherry, I see, you know, like 10, 15, 20 different things there. It's like none of that is right. This one board is the only one that's right.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to have somewhere to store that. We did not answer this guy's question, did we?
Yeah, sure we did.
I think we gave
But
him
it
the
took
answer.
a long time.
Yeah,
Gave him the answer he needed, not the one he asked
Yeah.
for.
that's right. Yes. We give the answers they need, not the answers they deserve.
Because if you're like writing into this podcast with a question, really, like
We
you're-
know what you want.
Yeah, you're expecting useful information out of this? I don't think so.
We give lots of useful information, just not about the questions that are asked.
Exactly. Yes.
Ready, Ben?
Yep.
Next, we didn't even talk about a title for this.
Title for
So
what?
for the next segment.
Woodworking Resolutions. It says it right up behind you.
It's kind of dull, don't you think?
Well, I didn't think about it very long.
All right. Well, it's time for Find Woodworking's Woodworking Resolutions for 2018.
Considering it's
Here we go.
2018 right now.
It's 2000. Is it 2018?
Let's do the time warp.
I still
baby.
haven't sobered up from New Year's Eve in my shop, crying lonely tears.
All right.
This was your idea, Matt.
Yeah. hit it up,
Woodworking
man.
Resolutions.
Yes, it was.
So you're hitting it up first.
So, for 2018, my number one woodworking resolution is I would like to have a book come out. No, I'm kidding.
How about you, Mike?
I would like it to come out in May of 2018 when it starts to go on sale. No, actually, my resolution for this year. Look at that's my all-time favorite cover. Actually, I am going to. One of the things I would want to do is I have this dresser in my bedroom, and it is from a certain large box store or flat pack furniture store. And it's actually surprisingly useful.
Does it rhyme with IKEA?
It does rhyme with IKEA. And it actually surprisingly, it's very compact, and it holds all of my clothing for the most part. You know, not obviously doesn't hold the hanging up stuff, but or my collection of lovely sweaters. But it could though. Well, I really like it, except that it's ugly.
Sure.
And
Paint it.
that would solve the issues. Thank you, Ben. That's my resolution for this year is to paint my dresser.
All right.
So but it's not, and it's also not my style, right? It's an IKEA style, you know, it's whatever. And but it's a good size and it functions well. So my plan, and I wonder what else I could do this with, is to take this piece of furniture and redesign it in my style and make it something that I would make, but maintain the size and functionality of it.
Cool.
So, you know, like one thing is it has 3 drawers, large drawers on this side. On this side, it has a door, and behind the door, it has 3 shelves, which I think is kind of lame. So I actually would want to make that 3 drawers. And just like that is interesting because normally people put small drawers across the top of a chest of drawers, right? Well, here they would be down the side with large drawers here. And so the challenge there is to take something that some way is already predefined for you and redesign it to make it an expression of your own design aesthetic.
That's cool.
So that's something that I want to do this year. And you might think, well, God, that's pretty easy because it's just a chest of drawers. But, I mean, you got to factor in doing that with everything else that I have going on in my life, a job, being a parent, et cetera.
Yeah.
So
I think that's an awesome point because, it's pretty typical to look down at mass-produced furniture. Oh, that's bad and blah, blah, blah. But the thing that factory-made furniture has going for it is they have like professional full-time furniture designers designing the stuff. And yeah, if it's sort of that lowest common denominator, something Americanish, something brownish for everyone to like, that's bad. But like IKEA, their design sensibilities are fantastic. And yeah, it's all built to hit a certain price point and it's all RTA. However, like you said, the underlying designs in a lot of that furniture is a pretty nice springboard for jumping into your own furniture from. You could do a lot worse than that.
And plus, it's a great place to go on an afternoon to walk
The
around that
meatballs.
place. Oh, the
Get yourself
meatballs.
meatballs.
Someone's going to bring out the meatballs.
Swedish fish.
But it's very functional furniture. And they, someone had suggested I'm in the process of redesigning my kitchen, and someone had said, hey, IKEA makes, pretty cool cabinets. And I was looking at their kitchen cabinets too, and I was like, wow, they do make pretty nice looking cabinets. But
Yeah. Actually, kitchen cabinetry in Europe is something that's commonly taken by a person from abode to abode.
Huh. Oh, that's funny.
And so
makes sense.
IKEA makes stuff like that hangs on rails and you just can move with them. But yeah, it's like, because one of the things is like, well, how big of a dresser do I need? And you don't really know. I mean, how are you going to figure that out? I guess you could get a bunch of boxes and put your stuff
Fill
in
them with
it.
sand.
Fill them with sand. And then I need this much volume.
Yeah, then weigh the sand.
Weigh the sand. And then, convert it to mouse heartbeats. And you have your answer.
that's getting granular.
But now I know. It's like, this actually works for my clothing. And actually, something else it convinced me of is that it has really nice slides on the drawers. So I'm like, in the past I would have thought, I'm just going to make traditional drawers that slide out on just the wood, right? But it's like, actually, these soft close drawers are really nice. So it's like, okay, now I think I'll invest in some nice undermount drawer slides that have soft close.
Cool.
And make it something that is custom look to it, but also has the advantages of modern design.
Yeah. Very cool.
So
That's funny. It's very similar to, I hope you don't mind if I just jump in, because mine is pretty close. I have a wall cabinet, a wall shelf that I had made, a few years ago. And I look at it every day, and I keep thinking, man, the sides are too fat. I use really bad drawer pulls. Like the proportions are okay, but they're not where I'm at today. So I was thinking that I'd like to look at something like that I've made previously and redo it and try to, put it into where I'm at today in terms of joinery and design and things like that. So that's my my goal, is to take that cabinet and reimagine it, sort of like what Matt's doing with his IKEA piece.
will you also redo your fish that you made in high school?
Oh, I should.
We should redo your
That's
fish.
hugely popular on Instagram. I keep getting private messages about it. Every time someone talks about a wall fish, I get a notification about it. I'm like, okay.
But so actually, I just had a great idea
It's a whale of an idea.
for another book, because my next book, I had an idea for it. But now I think, here's a good idea for a book. Pick out like 10 pieces of furniture from IKEA and remake them, and then get sued by IKEA. But that would be kind of cool. That would be a cool design exercise.
That would be.
That'd be a great book for Lost Art Press.
Just to be really clear here, neither one of those are resolutions. Those are just like, what do you plan on making? I'm going to make this. I'm going to make this. That's not a resolution.
Well, it's sort of, maybe my big resolution is to, spend more time and have more fun in the shop. There it is.
Yeah, but that's really boring.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what mine is. So
Is it?
my resolution is to spend 5 more minutes a day in my shop on the days that I'm in my shop. Get out there 5 minutes earlier. That's it. I can do that.
Isn't that going to make you 5 minutes later to work?
No, I'm getting there early. The second part of my resolution is getting into work 5 minutes later.
Because I like Tom to say 5 minutes later, not 5 minutes late. 5 minutes later. There's a little bit of a difference there.
That R carries a lot of weight.
Yes.
So 5 minutes a day more times, say, I'm in the shop 300 days a year. That's like 25 extra hours, which is a lot. But here's the thing. It actually works out to be a lot more than that because, okay, January 5 minutes earlier. But then by March, you forget what time you were supposed to be in the shop and you just go 5 minutes earlier than that. So now you're really 10 minutes earlier than your March time.
But if you forget what time you're supposed to be there, how could you go 5 minutes earlier than that time?
Well, because it isn't like 6:05 instead of 6 o'clock. It's more like, okay, just like whatever time it is, it needs to be 5 minutes before that. Get out of bed 5 minutes earlier, but that could be, it's a random number. On a weekend, it's a different time.
What time is it now, Ben?
See, no one knows.
Time to move on.
Bang.
Time is a human construct.
Yes, it is.
So,
That's a good. I don't know if I have a resolution. Mine's a resolution. I've resolved to build my dresser. I've put off building a dresser for years and years and years, and I'm not going to do it anymore.
my other resolution is every time I plan on eating 4 pieces of pizza, I'm going to eat 3.
I should do the same with tacos because I always say I should have gotten 2 tacos, but I get 3 tacos.
Yep. Every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Today's Tuesday, Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
No, it's not. Today's Friday, Mike.
Happy New Year.
January 5th. Friday, January 5th. Friday, January 5th.
It's Fajita Friday.
Boy, it's really
Mike.
looks like it's snowing out there.
I'm getting me some tacos today. That's all I can say.
It's Taco Friday.
Every day is Taco Day.
I let it slip to my wife. She goes, "Are you packing your lunch today?" No, it's Taco Tuesday. She goes, "You mean you eat tacos every Tuesday?" No.
No.
Last Tuesday, my wife asked me what I had for lunch. I was like, the taco, it's Tuesday. And she was like, of course we're eating tacos. It's Tuesday.
Yes.
I had tacos 2 nights ago and tacos last night. And I'm going to eat tacos today for lunch.
Enough said.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Boom. All right, let's get to the last, hopefully, question.
And I thought that was the outro.
This one comes from Scott. And Scott says, I acquired a pretty nice set of mismatched old chisels, and at least a couple of them have a pretty severe concave shape to their back. It's severe enough that I feel like I'm going to misshape the socket end of the chisel if I try to lap them flat. Should I correct them or should I leave them be? They're usable in their current shape, just not optimal.
He means shape both literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Oh.
Boy.
That's no comparison to Taco Tuesday.
No. So they obviously have a bow where
Along
the
the
middle
length.
is higher than the 2 ends rather than it's like a
Concave.
frown
Right.
rather than a smile.
Along its
Yeah.
length.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
That is weird.
It is weird.
Yeah.
But
I've seen it the other way. Like big, long chisels, they can be the other way so you can kind of lift the handle up off
Yes.
the surface a little bit. You got some weird chisels there, my friend.
Yeah, actually, I'm wondering about his evaluation of them as being pretty nice. So, I'm not so sure about that.
they're great for brickwork.
I'd work on just that inch or so back from the tip. That way you can just get sharp. Leave the profiles what they are.
Yeah.
Get them sharp and use them, and then just see if you want to invest the effort to get them flat. I don't know if you do.
Yeah, I don't know if I would not personally because one, it'll take forever.
Yeah.
And two, you might actually mess up the chisel. I mean, we haven't seen them, so we don't know how bad this curve is.
It's got to be It's got to be pretty bad if he's worried about hitting the socket end
Right.
on an 8-inch or so length.
It just, you could always cut it in half and then glue it to take out that bow. And then joint each end of it and then glue it back together. I don't know. I mean, we haven't seen them, but I would do what Mike said. If they're usable, right, you really only need like the first inch for most work. And then if you find a case where you need something that's truly flat for the length of it,
Like a long paring chisel.
then buy that chisel and make sure that it's in good condition. But yeah, honestly, I'd probably end up chucking them. Not chucking them, but just letting them sit in a drawer, and I'd buy something new.
Yeah.
It's always, I mean, you can always find an excuse to buy something new.
Yeah,
Or new
not too
old.
hard.
New
tools,
old, right. Yeah, I mean, but if you go to buy old chisels, like if you go to the flea market, you should take like a 6-inch rule with you, or a 12-inch rule, and just pop it on the bottom of a hand plane or a chisel back or whatever, and avoid stuff like this from the beginning.
Yeah.
If you can.
Don't worry about the handle. If you can put a new handle on there, don't worry about the bevel, because you can grind a new bevel.
Yeah.
Look at the back, and it shouldn't be pitted,
Right.
because if it's pitted, you just can't get it sharp.
Yeah.
But if it's all rounded over on the back near the edge, no problem. You can grind that back to a flatten area. Don't try to flatten it. If too much, you can just on a grinder take off, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch or so if you have to get back to relatively flat stock.
I remember once you and I were at a woodworking show, and there was like a market area, and there's a guy selling used tools, and he had all these great like old chisels, and I was like, oh, I wanted, a chisel like that, like this long or that wide or whatever. But this guy had gone through and back beveled all of the chisels. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Yeah, he back beveled all the chisels, and I was just, I was so angry because I was like, I am not wasting my time correcting your stupidity. Well, that was kind of harsh.
That was really harsh, but ouch.
Yeah, but he it was like not an insignificant back bevel. It was like a 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 inch or something. It was
Fast way to get sharp.
Yeah, it's like, why would you do that anyways? So.
All right. I think I already know what Mac's recommendation is going to be.
No.
Don't back bevel.
No, don't back bevel your chisels.
Well, I mean, the chisel back has to be dead flat in order for it to perform well, because that's often the reference surface for the tool.
Yeah.
So if you're, paring to a line or paring a peg flush to a surface, if it's rounded and you have to lift up the tool, forget it. All bets are off now. So
Big problem.
A chisel has to be flat for that first inch or so.
yeah.
Yes.
Has to be. Yeah. Mike, why don't you start with the recommendations?
What recommendations?
Let's wrap this thing up with some recommendations.
Every Tuesday, just go eat a taco. There's some foods that are maybe health-wise bad for you, but a lot of foods are like emotionally good for you. And it's just going to, something to look forward to, get you through the Sunday and the Monday, Taco Tuesday. Next thing you know, it's Thursday. You're looking at Friday and Saturday, and the week's gone.
Yeah, like everyone, they would never scoff at eating a sandwich every day for lunch.
Sure.
Taco is just a south of the border sandwich.
Yes.
And you could eat one every day for
Actually,
lunch.
that would be a
they're
torta.
delicious.
But yeah.
Well, anyways, I don't really know that much about it, but eat a taco every day for lunch, folks. Do you right.
Every day. Ouch. I'm just
All right.
going to go on Tuesdays.
How about you, Matt?
So my recommendation, hopefully this will get Ben upset, is if you wear glasses like I do, and Tom does, buy a pair of glasses specifically for the shop. And that'll do two things for you. One thing for you. Your good glasses that you wear every day are not going to get all screwed up in the shop, which they get dust all over them. They might get finish on them. They're going to get scratched up eventually. And then you can just have shop glasses. And if you're going to do that, and I'm going to recommend this, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, go to zenny.com and get them there, because you can get them for like $30 with bifocals. and that's what I do. And it's fantastic to always have a pair of glasses that are the right prescription, that have the right bifocal, and that when they start to get scratched up, it's not a big deal to buy a new pair for like $30 or $40.
That's almost cheaper than the reading glasses I buy.
Yeah, I have a pair of reading glasses that were like $20.
Yeah,
And-
I do keep a pair of reading glasses separately, just in my shop, because I find it hard to woodwork with my glasses on for whatever reason.
Also, I think it's really cool to have some sort of ritual or separation, just to sort of break your train of thought from when you're everyday life, and then when you get into the shop, you should be like mentally focused and in the shop. It could be anything from putting on an apron to turning the music on, or putting on a different pair of glasses.
Or
Now, see,
picking up cat poop.
When Mr. Rogers came home,
I was going to say
and
that.
he needed to be ready to talk to all them kids,
Yeah.
he changed his shoes and his sweater.
Yeah.
Before I go into the shop, Ben, I changed my boots and I changed my glasses.
I'm cool with the glasses. The boots are still weird to me.
I think that's cool.
I have shop shoes.
Yeah.
I take my shoes off before if I don't
Everybody's
take
weird.
my shoes off, I drag sawdust up into all areas of the house. So, shop shoes.
And shop boots, you don't have to worry about them getting all messed up
Yeah.
at the lumber yard or in the shop. It doesn't matter. You can,
That's a bonus recommendation.
Yeah.
Shop shoes. There you go.
For that matter, get yourself some shop pants.
All right. My recommendation is come to Fine Woodworking Live in April. Boom.
Boom.
That'll be fun.
All
right.
And buy 52 boxes in 52 weeks in May.
In May. The author of that book is going to be at Live.
Yes.
And that's it for this episode of Shop Talk Live. Please spread the word about Shop Talk Live to your woodworking friends and neighbors. Shop Talk Live is dependent on your questions and comments, so make sure to send them in to shoptalk@taunton.com. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that thumbs up button. Finally, you can keep up with Fine Woodworking on Instagram and on Facebook, and look for all of us on Instagram as well. Thanks for listening, and have fun in the shop. There's your New Year's resolution.
Have fun in the shop.
Now.
The other thing about getting into the shop 5 minutes earlier during the day, that's actually the same as getting into work 5 minutes earlier, because shop time and work time, it's all the same. They all are an investment in the craft. So,
In your time at the magazine.
yes, it's all the same.